Come spend the day with me as I catch up on some housework and make some cornbread using some freshly milled corn. When I'm filming this video, it is Friday, and on Fridays, I usually spend the day trying to get everything caught up from the week. So if we have extra laundry to do, extra dishes to do, anything that I've been working on, if I have a project, usually I'll try and wrap it up unless we're going to be working on it over the weekend also. Ben usually works half days on Fridays, so the latest he'll work is around 2 o'clock, and on this particular Friday he ended up working until around 2, and we ended up going on a date night after. So we were going to go to Hobby Lobby and see if I could find a fabric for the pantry to make a curtain for the lower half of the cabinetry. Recently, I've gotten quite a few new followers on here, so if you are new, welcome, but I keep getting questions about the layout of our house. So this is the laundry room, and it is upstairs, and to the left through the door you just saw, that was the bathroom, and then behind me where I'm standing to the right, that is our bedroom, and that is where we sleep. So the upstairs, the only room that is finished is the laundry room, and that was actually the very first room that we finished whenever we moved into the house, just because we were spending so much money at the laundromat, so we had to get it done. But I'll have a video linked down below for you guys that is the reveal of the laundry room, and that will walk you guys through everything that we did in there. And I do believe that there are older videos on here showing us doing all of the work also. I have been working on canning some dry beans this week. I have a recipe actually for how I can my dry beans. I do the no soak method, and I'll link that down below for you guys, but it's super easy and quick. But I was out of all of my dried beans. I think I had like 3 cans left down in the cellar, so I needed to get some more canned, and I worked on that over the past few days. So I ended up canning, I think it was like 16 pints of pinto beans and then 14 quarts of the kidney beans. I still need to work on black beans, but I'll work on that next week. When they were processing in the canner, if you can tell, the jars are a little bit low, so these leaked off, but they ended up sealing. They always do. Sometimes they just leak off in the canner, and that's why it's so important to wash your jars before storing them. I always put mine in the sink and scrub them down with soap and warm water just to get any of the food residue off or water. And sometimes the hard water buildup is so bad that it'll leave a white film, and I like to just get that off before storing it because you don't want mold growing on the outside of your jars while it's being stored. It's the same with your canner. My canner looks very dirty, but I promise it's not. It's just wear and tear on it, and it just ages over time, but it is clean. And if anything leaks off in your canner, you always need to make sure you wash it and don't store it with the food down in it still, or like particles of it, because it will mold. You have to clean it. I finally have gotten all the videos scheduled out, so right now you guys are seeing this video. Next week is going to be the cellar tour and reveal of the cellar, and then the following Friday it is going to be the pantry reveal and tour of the pantry. I'm hoping that this evening, whenever we go to Hobby Lobby, I can find a fabric that I like and put it in the pantry, because I have decided to put up a curtain on the lower half of the cabinetry, and because we didn't do doors, so we're just going to hang the curtain just kind of like to match underneath our kitchen sink. But that is the schedule for the next few weeks for videos. I know a lot of you guys were curious about the pantry tour, so the cellar tour is going to come first, just to go ahead and get that one out of the way. And we have been working on the cellar the same time we've been working on the pantry, so it's all been simultaneously, and the cellar is directly underneath of our pantry and our kitchen. In the last, I would say 6 to 8 months, I've really gotten into milling all of our flour at home. I have the Mock Mill 200, and I got it on eBay, and so far I absolutely love it. But the one thing that we don't have is corn. So actually on this day we were going to go pick up my order of soft white wheat berries, and the only thing that we don't have is a good source for corn. So I started researching, trying to figure out how to grow your own corn for cornmeal, and from what I could find, it was called dent corn, but also another word for it was just field corn. So we grow field corn every single year. We usually grow about 1 acre to 2 acres of it, and we have a whole like grain wagon out in our barn full of corn. So I decided to go out there and shell some corn and try putting it through my mill to make some cornbread, because I've been buying cornmeal from the Amish and we don't like the flavor of it. So I wanted to try our own. I've been wanting to try this for a really long time now, but a couple months ago I mentioned it to Ben, and he said that the field corn is not the same as dent corn, but everything that I kept researching online said that it was. So I decided to just go out there and try it. And I know several people do eat field corn. So a lot of people like fried in a skillet with butter and sugar, because it is pretty bitter. So they will add stuff to it and eat it that way. We don't, but I know a lot of people do. But we have never actually ate our field corn just because it is bitter, and we raised it for our animals. On my particular grain mill, like I said, I have the mock mill, and I know you are not supposed to mill popcorn in your mill, but it didn't say anything about just regular whole corn. So I separated my stones as far apart as I could just to crack the corn. That way it wasn't going to be grinding it whole and like doing triple the amount of work that it needed to do. So I ended up cracking it and then running it through again just to get the fine powdery cornmeal that we're used to getting from the store. And it looks just like cornmeal that you get in the store. It is absolutely beautiful. I did not think it was going to turn out this good. Since this was going to be my first time making it with this field corn, I wanted to stick with a recipe that I knew. So I'm just making the same recipe that I always make. That way I knew what the taste was supposed to be. So I always start by putting some butter in my skillet, and I preheat my oven. And I'll pop the butter in the skillet, put the skillet in the oven while it preheats, and it's going to come out looking like brown butter, but that's perfectly fine. And while the oven and the skillet preheat, I'll go ahead and mix up my batter. I'll have the recipe for this cornbread linked down below for you guys, and you can get it over on my website. All of my recipes do come with a free printable, but I know a lot of you guys are intimidated by grain milling. I get a lot of emails about it, and I know the initial startup cost is pretty steep. That's why I bought my grain mill on eBay. So always check Facebook Marketplace or eBay and just make sure that there's nothing wrong with it. So that's just the biggest thing, is make sure it works. Ask for a video of it running if you need to. Whatever you need to do to just make sure that it works properly, because it can be quite expensive to get it fixed. So that was just the biggest thing whenever I was buying a used one, and just make sure it looks clean. Even if you don't have freshly milled flour, or you're not using the same type of flour that I use, typically I'll use einkorn, soft white wheat, and hard white wheat. I've tried to stick with those 3 flours just because they're basic, and I know there are a lot of like ancient grains that people use and other modern day wheats that they use, but I've just found it's easier to stick with the basics. But even if you do not have a grain mill and you're not using freshly milled flour, you can still make these recipes. So anytime that I'm using hard white wheat or soft white wheat, then you can use all-purpose flour. They substitute practically the same, 1 for 1. The only time that you can't really is with einkorn, but in my recipes that I have on my website, I'll tell you if you can use all-purpose flour or what you need to use to substitute with. Many of the recipes that are on my website are already all-purpose recipes, just because, like I said, it was only in the last like 6 to 8 months that we have switched over to using a grain mill. And moving forward, all of my recipes will probably be used with freshly milled flour, but I will always have the conversions for the all-purpose for you guys. I actually have a email list that is specifically for einkorn recipes, and I would share about health benefits of einkorn and just anything to do with einkorn. I would answer a lot of questions in that email, but it would send out weekly. It was kind of like a newsletter, but I think I'm going to change the direction of it a bit, and instead of just focusing on einkorn, I will share about hard and soft white wheat also, and just anything to do with grain milling. So it'll probably just be about grain milling, freshly milling your own grains. But I'll have that link down below if you guys want to join that list. With the cornmeal that we've been getting from the Amish the past several pans of cornbread that I have made, we have not even eaten because we did not like the flavor. We ended up giving it to our chickens, but this was by far the best cornbread I've ever made. I actually added a little bit of honey to it, and I'll add that in my recipe also as an optional thing, but it truly tasted just like Jiffy cornbread. If you like sweet cornbread, then you'll like this recipe, but if you like bitter cornbread, then you will not like this recipe. But that is going to be it for this video, so thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys will like and subscribe.